How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, looking forward to this.
No worries. Well, I'm just going to run round to the passenger seat of the car, and we'll kind of introduce the Heritage Live. So if you just want to introduce yourself and introduce the car that I am drawing this evening.
Okay, I'm Graham, and I work 4 days a week, hopefully, with the MOD, helping them out. So that keeps me off the streets. And today, hopefully, we're going to be looking at a Jaguar XK150S, 1959.
Lovely.
Which I have at the moment, and it's sort of halfway through restoration.
Yeah, so
Probably a bit more than halfway.
a little bit different than usual, as it were, because all the ones that are so far are kind of complete cars, but this one is in build, as it were.
Yes.
So.
Yes, that's fair to say.
So hopefully you can see on the screen, you can see the Heritage logo, and then these are some of the ones that have been created over the past few weeks. So we've started off with an Opel Manta, in orange, an orangey red one, and then a VW Beetle, and then we did an Aston Martin as well, and then we've got a Ford Consul, Porsche 911, a Targa, and then we've got a Lotus Elite as well, and then a Land Rover Series 3, so not a Defender, but a Series 3 Landy, VW Carman Gear, a Abarth 695 replica or recreation, Ford RS2000, a Land Cruiser, Toyota Land Cruiser, and then a VW Super Beetle was another, and then we had a Ford that was a Ford Fiesta Mark II as well. So there's a few of the ones that we've been done over the last few weeks, but this evening, as you mentioned earlier, we're doing the Jaguar XK150, I believe.
Yep.
So there we are.
Yep.
So this is its current state that it's in. It's kind of this kind of hard. It looks like you've got the engine in, but there's quite a bit more to do. Before this car gets back on the road.
Yeah, you could say that. The fuel system's now in, the brake system's in, all bar the servo. The latest challenge was the wiring, because it's got complete new wiring looms in.
Yeah.
And it was just absolute spaghetti. The biggest amount of spaghetti all comes together in two places. One is the fuse box, and the second is behind the dashboard. Haven't tackled behind the dashboard yet, but a colleague of mine helped out with the fuse box. So the fuse box is now fully wired, which is great, because I really wasn't looking forward to that.
Well, we're going to talk about the car and your car history and how this one came about. So how continuous car drawing works is that once I put the pen on a paper, I draw the entire outline without taking the pen off it, and then over kind of 30 minutes-ish, 45 minutes, I'll then draw in and create the rest of the details. Okay, so I'm going to start. So in terms of your car history and how this particular vehicle arrived on your driveway, what was the build up to it, as it were?
The build-up went back to a Top Gear episode where I saw James May, and he was in a competition with the other two, so Hamster and Jeremy Clarkson, and they had a competition on who could get up to Scotland the quickest. And James May actually chose an XK120, which was the first of the XK brands to come out. And he drove it up to Scotland. It was absolutely chucking it down on the motorway when he was driving up. But I saw the car, and I hadn't really paid much attention to them before. And the XK is the design from Jaguar before the E-Types came out. So it ran from about early 1950s to 1961. And I saw this car and I thought, that looks a really nice car. So I then started looking at what marks there were, what sort of variations there were. And Jaguar created the 120 to start with.
Yep.
That went on to the 140, and then the final version they produced was the 150, which had a slightly larger cockpit, a few more luxurious things like winding windows, which the 120 I don't believe had. So I thought that looks like an interesting car to buy, and I have sort of a bit of an engineering background, so I thought, yeah, it'd be quite nice to do one of those up. So I did start looking, having never taken on a car restoration before, but I did start looking at what was available in the marketplace, and then eventually found this particular car, which at the time was in like a slate grey colour.
Okay.
It was with a company known as the Carriage Company, which is up in near Milton Keynes, and they had this car there. Obviously, it was in a reasonable state, as in the chassis had been completely rebuilt, powder coated. The bodywork had been completely refurbished and was all straight, which is fairly important. And then the engine had been rebuilt. Apart from that, though, very little else had occurred to it. It was originally, when it was made in 1959, it was red in colour, and it was exported to New York, which was its first port of usage.
Okay.
And it was used in New York for quite a few years. And I believe back in the late 1990s or 2000s, it was then re-imported to the UK as a left-hand drive car. And a guy bought it who owned an engineering firm, and he then proceeded to do what was done to it up until I bought it. But it appeared that he'd either run out of money or run out of enthusiasm, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
And he'd sort of stopped and decided to sell it. So he then sold it to the Carriage Company, and I bought it from them. So when I bought it, had no fuel system, no brakes, no wiring, was basically a bare shell, no gearbox. So it didn't even have a fuel tank. So there were a lot of bits missing, and that's part of the interesting bit, although quite expensive bit of restoring an old car.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a daunting thing, I imagine, to go right. Yeah, you're kind of picking up somebody else's project, and from my I'm currently restoring and rebuilding a car, and it is kind of like you have without the knowledge of what the previous person was doing. Was it quite a daunting idea, or you were like, that's what I kind of want. I want that. To pick up the where this project left off.
Yeah, I did want a challenge. It's kind of a retirement project, but I'm not retired, so it's something interesting, something I enjoy. So with an engineering background, it's kind of it is basically engineering at the end of the day, and it's good to try and work out. When you don't have anything, as in you don't have a fuel system, you don't have brakes, to work out the guy's thoughts about what they've done and how they've done it, and why they've done it in a certain way.
Yeah.
So why do the brakes fit like they do? And I now understand it. So it's that sort of learning I find quite intriguing. And can it be improved? So, because it was a left-hand drive, the guy converted it to a right-hand drive. And so it's not, it can't be concourse because it's not as it left the factory, and it never will be being a right-hand car.
But because you can put your thing to it, therefore it becomes, it's you can kind of personalise it to your taste, because it, as you say, it's not concourse, and you can make it the car that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So
You know,
hopefully you can see the outline there. So that's all done in one single line. So started here,
yeah.
signature down here. Now to make it into what it is on the screen here.
Okay, that looks really good.
So,
Um,
sorry. So, yeah. So in terms of like, so have you been tackling it in terms of sections and being right? I want to do the engine, like the what? Yeah. How have you gone about So you've got this project that somebody else started. What was the first? What's the kind of the thought process of the bits that you wanted to do first? And have you got that kind of Is it in a I'm married to an engineer, so I know she's very much a problem solver. Like but she puts it in almost like a spreadsheet of this is how I'm going to go about doing it. Is that your way of thinking about it?
Yeah, I kind of started by systems. So I did the fuel system. No, I didn't. Sorry, I did the braking system to start with. So the XK150 was the first of the XKs to have all-round disc brakes rather than drums. So I thought I'll tackle something that I know a bit about because I've worked on cars before. So I thought I'll tackle those. So I did do the braking system to start with, which worked up to a point until I got to the rear brakes, installed the discs, but then the handbrake mechanism was a little bit more challenging because they're not readily available. You literally don't get any of the parts new, they're all second-hand.
Yep.
So I had to source those. So while I was doing that, I thought, okay, well, I've done something I understand now, so I'll start doing some other bits. And I then started to add bits to the engine. So you've got the braking system does incorporate parts to the engine. I had the carburetors rebuilt. This thing's got triple SU carburetors, so I've had those rebuilt now. Did a trial fit on those. And I'm working currently towards getting the engine going because the engine, since it was rebuilt, hasn't been run, and engines don't like to be sort of stood still.
Yeah.
So I do need to try and get that. Hence the now concentrating on getting, the electrics, because that's obviously a fairly fundamental part of getting the engine running. But then it's a bit annoying because to get the carbs in, the starter motor sits right underneath the carbs. So it's better to put the starter motor in prior to putting the carbs on. But then I can't put the starter motor in because the gearbox isn't done. So the gearbox is away being refurbished. But again, parts for that are fairly difficult to come by. And having had a chat with the gearbox refurbisher, they've said that the second gear is looking a little bit dodgy. It's usable, but they said because it's such a swine of a thing to replace and to rebuild, they said really you want to change that. And of course you go on the internet, look for spares, you can't get new ones, so then you have to look at what's available on the second-hand market, and the photos you get, you just cannot see what sort of wear there is. So either you buy it and hope it's less wear than the one you've got, but you have to remember they're all circa late 50s, early 60s, so you just don't know what condition it's in.
Yeah.
So I've managed to find now a company in Manchester that remanufactures gears from scratch. It is fairly expensive, so I'm only going to do second gear, but hopefully I'm going to get a new second gear. That means they can then reassemble the gearbox. That means I can then fit the starter motor and then put the carbs on.
I mean, how easy is this to kind of like to research? Is there an owners club or forum or somewhere that you can kind of go to other people who own these cars, or is it very much kind of you're researching and gaining the knowledge as you go along?
Well, there is a part of that, certainly. There are clubs. I belong to the XK club. which is it's a very good club, and you can ask questions on that forum. There's a Facebook XK120, 150 club. That's good. There are some very good books, the Explored books. So there's again XK120, 50 Explored, and that has plates of virtually every area of the car, and you can glean an awful lot of knowledge from that. But the thing I really enjoy about it is the number of new skills that you develop in doing this. So I can now bend pipes without getting them all squishy and horrible and flat. I can do silver soldering, which I'd never done before. I can do brazing. There's so many things you do. And one of the things that was annoying me, that was there's some small bits, like some of the throttle linkage, which is now in. I just needed some small bits. And I thought, well, I could go to a guy and get them to machine them up, or guess what? I could probably spend £400 or £500 and get a small lathe, which is precisely what I did. And I've really, really enjoyed using a small lathe. I haven't used a lathe since I was at school, basically, because that's not the sort of engineering I was doing. But if you start, doing these things, you sort of think, well, this is quite good fun, and it is great fun. So it's the number of new skills I've found has been very rewarding out of doing this at the moment.
That sounds great, and like you say, by learning and making this all, it means it's very much your vehicle, it's your car, because you've put the man hours and the efforts into creating and making it, so that you know how the car is built. Yeah, that's very true. One thing I didn't appreciate when I bought the car was that virtually every bit you have to fettle or change or file or re-drill because nothing fits. And somebody made the point to me that, well, actually, that's what they did in the Jaguar factory. These were all hand-built, and there was no CNC lathes to make stuff exactly the same. So every bit was, in fact, possibly a little bit different, and probably nothing fitted. And they did exactly that, which is why, they're hand-built and everyone's individual. Yeah, and that's what makes it unique and special, and this particular car, because you've been so involved with its creation, it's very much your car, and it's a one-off because of all the bits that you're doing to it as well.
Yeah. There's still a lot to go. So there's the rest of the wirings, all the dashboard. The gearbox will come back, hopefully complete. The prop shaft's in, the rear diff is in. The brakes are just about done. I've got to get the servo rebuilt, but once that's in, that's literally a straight sort of bolt in. And then the inside. So it's Jaguar. It's called Old English White is the colour. And I want to put in a blue interior with a blue hood. That's the plan.
Oh, lovely. So the bodywork as it is at the moment, it kind of looks creamy-ish.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's old English white.
So is this the finished bodywork, or will it have to have another layer on top of it?
No, that is its colour. That is a genuine colour of the period.
Lovely. And the red was that? You said the car was. The original exterior of the car was red. So what the interior was that red before, or?
Yeah, interior was red and black, and it had a grey roof, I think.
Oh, nice. But it's kind of so did it get changed when it got exported? Did it get changed to a different colour?
Well, no, it was exported red, used red, so it was red for most of its life. And when it came back to UK, and the guy stripped it down and rebuilt the bodywork, he then changed it to this like slate grey. That I don't think that was an original colour. Jaguar, I may be wrong there, but I personally didn't like it. But I've always liked the old English white in Jag. Excuse me. So that's the colour it went.
Nice. So, what's in terms of the next process? You said you got the wiring to do. So, I mean, in terms of all kind of the bits of it, like interior and obviously headlights and whatnot, are they all kind of offer specialists at the moment, or are you just working through the list of what you want to do?
Now, most of the specialists you get in touch with or are local, they're all reasonably quick. The longest one is the Gearbox, but that's only because of trying to get hold of the parts. The rest of it, you can buy most of the parts. There are a few that are quite specialist and you have to go second hand. But the focus now is on the engine. So I need to get the engine running. But that is so dependent on the gearbox now. I mean, I could put the gearbox in and get it all running and then take it all apart again, but I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going to wait for the gearbox. And in that case, the next thing to go in is the radiator, because the cooling system, the fans, the heater is in, and the pipe work is in for the heater, and that has to be in because obviously it connects up to the hot water system of the car. So I've ordered now a few bits for the radiator. So the radiator is the next part to go in, and then it'll probably be the rest of the electrics. So I've got the distributor to go in and the generator, neither of which, well, I have a distributor, but it's an old-fashioned one, so I'll be changing that for a digital electronic one. And then once I've done that, it's nearly ready to go. But say I've got to get the carbs on, which is waiting for the gearbox.
So in terms of timescale, how long has it been from like you purchasing it to now to when you think it might be finished? Have you got a kind of timescale in mind, or?
I got the car June 20, so I've had it about 16 months, something like that.
Yeah.
It would be nice to think that it will be running in the next 3 months, so running by March. And I guess the biggest one there then is to get it to the upholsterers, because upholstering is not something that I'm going to tackle, because to get the upholstery right is a real craft.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I would be confident in getting right. So I'm going to have to get the car transported to an upholsterer, because although I have the seats, I guess I could bolt them down onto the wooden floor, but it's probably easier for me to leave it all out and just send them everything I've got and say, do your magic, and I want it blue.
Yeah.
I've got the hood frame. I've got all the wood for the hood frame. So I've got all those bits. So if I can get the whole lot done as a package, I might get a better deal as well.
Yeah, going through that process myself at the moment is working out what the interior is going to look like, and because the car I've got a Vauxhall Chevette being restored, and it's not going back to stock, but it's kind of those choices of where you go with it and what you want to do with it, and how you want to make it your own, and a lot of thought goes into the exterior paintwork, but actually it's also the interior that takes time to create as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big big quandaries I've got is that the actual dashboard itself is completely separate from the rest of the dash. So you can actually unscrew the dashboard, and it's like a central block, which measures about 2 foot wide and about 8 inches deep. And you can have that in obviously any finish you want, but if you look at the XK120s and XK140s, they actually have the option of a burr walnut finish. And the XK150s, because they knew they were kind of running out of speed with what was left and they could extract out the car as far as looks and things, they actually tried to cut the prices, and they stopped producing a burr walnut dash for them. So they only came with a leather dash.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is nice, But if you look at Burr Walnut, you know, obviously that has something a bit special, a bit top notch, if you like. So do you then go totally away from something that was never produced because it wasn't even an option on the 150, or do you say, stuff it, I like it, I'm going to do it? And I haven't come to that conclusion yet.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess like you say, at the time, Jaguar was brand new while the cars were, it's coming towards the end of its life cycle. So, we don't want to be putting more stuff into it. I mean, kind of going around the factory and going, well, that's what we've got available, type of thing. But you can decide, well, actually, I want it referencing the previous models because you're building it. It's your choice. So.
Yeah, I just don't know because I'm not at that stage yet. I haven't had to make that decision.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of putting it off until I have to decide. But it's one of the problems I've got with it.
And do you go to any kind of classic car shows and have a mooch around and see the other models to see what they're like?
That. Yeah. And you take loads of photos to see what everybody else has done and what steering wheel they put on and how they finish things. And it's good because at some stages you actually don't understand where things go. So the wiring loom, sometimes you just don't understand where it goes in the car. And unless you've got an XK150S, which is a special carb on it, which fills up the driver's side of the engine bay, which leaves a lot less space for anything else, you just don't know where the wires go. And it's good to call up somebody or go to a show and actually sort of say, can I have a look under the bonnet? They just think you want to look at the engine, but actually I want to see where a wire goes.
Yeah. Yeah, with my Chevette, we're putting a Mazda MX-5 engine into it, and there's a few conversions that have been done, but it's always good, to actually see one, to see how the engine fits and how they use the space, because as much as photos are good, but actually seeing it in real life is really what helps you make decisions, essentially. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you meet new people. I was under the car at some stage last summer, and the guy stood at the gate. He said, "Oh, is that an XK?" And I said, "Yeah." And he turned out that he lives up the road and he's got an XK120 that I never knew. So we had a long chat, and I went up to see his car, and he's had a look around this one. So yeah, it's funny how things like that suddenly occur.
Yeah, no, it's the accidental meetings is always a positive in car building. So
and I'm sure there'll be lots of others. You go to shows and talk to people, and you get numbers and stuff like that. And certainly being a member of the XK club, I got a message from the Essex reps. I live in Essex. I got a message from the Essex rep that said, would I like to attend a rally for these cars because we need a few more? And I said, well, it's not a runner at the moment, so no. But I said, I'll send you some photos. So I sent him some photos, and well, yeah, I love that. Can I come round and see it? So he popped round to have a look, and somebody else I found now who is quite interested, and he just loves working on XKs. So he actually helped me with the fuse box wiring, which was really, really appreciated, because I really wasn't looking forward to that. That was, bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like it's a labour of love in terms of building it, and it sounds like you're having a lot of fun with it as well. It's not like you kind of the passion for it is there, and you're enjoying the build of it.
Yeah, I like getting stuff right. I've put in things like an aluminium fuel tank, which wasn't standard. It was a steel fuel tank, but I felt I wanted the sort of the non-corrosive version or non-corroding version. So I've had that powder coated and that's fitted, but the fuel tank is actually suspended by 4 lugs that are welded onto the fuel tank. And I don't really trust aluminium that much when it's got a sort of heavy fuel tank hanging off 4 lugs. So I've made things like 2 straps that go underneath, which probably are fairly standard for an aluminium tank, but you can't buy them very easily. So I've made those, and it's something else, and it's sort of that attention to detail that I quite enjoy, and I look at those and think, yeah, I made those.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I guess it's the satisfaction of having done a lot of it. Okay, there's bits I haven't done, the interior, the gearbox, etc. But you get to know the car inside out. And if something happens, you know what's there, you know what's underneath it, you know what's inside it, and you can probably diagnose the problem fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's great. Right? It's just getting the kind of the finishing touches. It'd be quite nice to do a before and after of one of these. Like, yeah, when you've got it all finished, do another one, do another one of it as a finished car rather than a project car. So it's
happy to get in touch. Hopefully, it won't be too long.
Yeah, no, it's
But yeah, if I can get it in a reasonably fit state by next summer, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, that's the same with mine. It's hopefully over the winter months where it's there aren't as many shows. Like I said to you earlier, it's literally you come back from Saudi Arabia like this morning, so it's now getting all the Christmas orders and all the orders that have been done from shows, just getting all those done. So got a busy week of drawing ahead now. So after painting for the last few days, so it's it's good. It's good that it's busy. That's the main thing. So.
Oh yeah. When you're lucky to keep busy in these strange times.
Yes.
Most people haven't been.
Yeah, no, and certainly when we were travelling back, obviously with travel restrictions changing and whatnot, we're very fortunate that we got back before tomorrow, so it's that we're not having to do the different set of travel restrictions that are coming in, so it's been a funny 18 months, but positive because this whole project wouldn't have happened had it not have been for not being able to paint. So it's great to be able to paint and draw and have two different methods of creating now. So yeah,
that's looking really good.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's just adding a bit of detail, a bit of the engine block in there as well. And what is the engine in this? What size is that? What size is the engine?
It's a 3.4 litre, which was the standard engine for a lot of the XKs. As it got to the end of the run, they actually increased that to a 3.8, which were the very final cars. But because it is the S version, it has the triple carbs and it has what's known as a straight head port. So that's how the exhaust gases exit the head. And by doing that, when it was produced, it had 250 brake horse under its bonnet, which for the time I think was a fairly potent car. And I think they've got a bit of oomph behind them when you get them running. Yeah. But I'm yet to find that out.
Yeah, it goes as fast as you push it right now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a straight six. So it's a nice engine. I mean, they're very solidly built. The gearboxes are so incredibly heavy. You pick up a modern day gearbox and you pick up this gear, you have difficulty in picking up this gearbox. So that's quite impressive. But I just want to get the engine running. Really, it's not been running for enough time now. So it's just a case of remembering to put all the oil in the right places before you start.
Yeah. You don't want to damage the end. Run it and then run it dry. You definitely want to make sure it's lubricated properly.
Yeah. And there's so many lubrication points. It's the old-fashioned car, so it's got grease nipples everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And if you look at the XK Explored books, you actually have a diagram in there that looks like it's got measles, which is everywhere, that needs lubricating and the lubricant to use at the same time. So it's a very useful book. It's a bloody expensive book, but it's a very useful book to have.
I'll just put this. Is this like a blue? Is like some kind of a wrap over the top of the windscreen?
It's purely a wrap because I found I kept grabbing the top of the windscreen frame just to sort of get in and out or move around, and I thought if I've got a wedding ring on and I chip the paint, I'll be really annoyed.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll put a wrap round it and that'll stop that from happening.
Yeah, well, I'll add that in there as a little feature of its current state it's in. So
yeah, the rear wings are off at the moment because they just get in the way. You don't need them on. There's actual piping to go between the body and the rear wing, which, you know, it's something you'd never see now.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's how cars have changed, but it's a beautifully shaped car. It's really nice.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. When I saw the first time I saw the 120, which is slightly different, not a lot, but slightly different, I just thought that looks a really nice car. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, E-types and things like that. Some of the Ferraris, and even some of the Astons, I think look very nice. But this is up there with all of them. And so it's a little bit more modern than the 120, so that's why I decided to go for that one.
Awesome. Well, I think we're pretty much there. So thank you so much for joining me tonight for the Heritage Classic Car Assurance Live, and I'll get this image posted online and I'll send it over so you can see what it is, and then you'll get a little gift box in the post in the next few weeks. Just in time for Christmas, so you'll receive some goodies from Heritage as well.
That's very nice, yeah.
I'm just adding the wiring that's coming out of the light holes and all this kind of wiring that's dotted about at the moment. So I kind of like it that it's all these bits are going. So and not forgetting the red chalk in front of the wheels as well. Right, there we are. I think we're pretty much there. Well, I say thanks again for joining me. This series of cars that I've done for Heritage, and there'll be another one, I believe, next week. I never know what there is until kind of later on this week. But there'll be another one, whether it's on a Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But there is your Jaguar as a continuous car drawing.
Brilliant.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll say you'll be able to re-watch this video, and I'll get the image posted online ASAP.
Brilliant. Thanks again. Much appreciated.
No worries. Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, Em.
Bye. There we are. There it is. Hope you like it. Thanks for joining me. And that is the Jaguar as a continuous car drawing.